Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today I want to talk about 3 things that you need to kind of mentally prepare yourself for. I think there's 3 big changes coming to this game, not just talking about, oh, we're getting a new raid, but there's going to be some really big changes that are going to be on the horizon that you as players are going to have to navigate, and you're going to have to mentally prepare yourself for how you're going to participate, attack, or where you're going to decide to focus your resources. So we're going to kind of work through these things. You know, what am I looking at? How should you? What does this mean moving forward? There's some big changes that some people I think are overlooking that could potentially completely shift how this game operates in the future. So let's go ahead, keeping in suspense, and give our channel members a huge shout. Again, if you're ever interested, link below, along with a link to our Discord server. Go check it out. Really appreciate you guys just keeping the faith, believing in me. If you're ever interested in joining those channel memberships, y'all know where that link is, right? Again, I got a, shameless plug, right? No, you guys are the best. I really can't put into words how much I appreciate all of you. So thanks again. Let's get in here and let's talk about some Galaxy of Heroes changes. So the first one we're going to talk about is in Grand Arena. And, not just Grand Arena, but PvP in general, and it really has to do with focus datacrons. We now, in the game, have 2 sets of focus datacrons. You've got the set from Echoes of the Rebellion, which had Boba Fett, Aphra, Hera, and Zalbar, and then we had the Apocron. And then in Echoes of War, you've got the Jedi Temple Guard, which again, there's 2 datacrons there because they messed up and gave out 2 of them. Then they also have Hermit Yoda, Krennic, Darkside Rey, and the Chief Nebetcron. So, when you look at that, that is 6, 7, 11 focus datacrons that are going to be active for, from now until August. So 2 months of PvP with these datacrons. And I think this is going to give Capital Games a lot of data on who is investing in these. I think right now, this first set, it was new. People weren't really sure. I think they've seen the impact. So now with this next one, you're going to see, is it just players in the top end of Kyber 1 here? Right? And again, I clicked into this guy from, Kyber 1 there. Keep going down to somebody else inside of Kyber 1. Again, look, a lot of the focused datacrons, not quite complete yet, but still very close. And if you keep looking in, Grand Arena, and let's say we go down to just the top player in Kyber 2. Right? So let's get to top player in Kyber 2 here. And look, they've got 3 focused datacrons from the first set. And then they have 2 of them that they've already purchased in the newest set. So, obviously a drop-off there that in Kyber 2, and maybe we'll click on one more. Let's just click on this person. Looks like they've got the Oppo datacron. They got 4 last time. And they already have 3 here. So there's, somebody else with a lot more at that end of Kyber 2. So, again, this is going to be, I think, really, really important for Capital Games to figure out. How do they want these impacting the game? If it's only those in the top part of the game, the Kyber 1 and Kyber 2 who are interacting with these things, maybe it changes and their impact is a little bit more substantial. Because for us to, you think about like Zalbarcron. Most people really just use that for stats. They weren't really using the Old Republic team with it. Whereas the Dr. Afra-cron, everybody was using that with Dr. Afra. The Phoenix-cron was another one where some people placed it on defense, but a lot of people just used it for stats. And I think with these datacrons, there's a potential where this one for Krennic, again, Old Man Logan, Young Skywalker, and we talked about that. Some people will not use that with Krennic, but a lot of these other ones they're going to use with their team. So I think it's going to be really important to see what this impact is. Focus datacrons are here to stay. I think the bigger question is how much do they want them driving wins and losses in every single, like how much are they driving those wins and losses, and do they want it to be more or potentially less? Because there is an argument to be made with focus datacrons that someone who invests in those focus datacrons, but maybe not in the newest of teams, could still do really, really well if they have the stuff here. So I think there's an interesting dynamic. My gut assumption tells you they're only going to get worse. Right? That's my gut assumption, is that, like, if you're someone who doesn't like datacrons, these are only going to get worse. Because they're going to find the people who invest in them, they're going to find the ways to make them more insane. So, You know, I wanted to bring that up because I think that is a big change that you need to prepare yourself for, that you might have to be like me and almost a less than enthusiastic participator of it, that it's not really you're not participating because you like them, you're participating out of necessity. So I think everybody should be prepared for that with how many are in the game now and the impact that they could potentially be having. You might need to be buying these to maintain your rank in Grand Arena. The next change that I think many players are going to have to find themselves into and figure out how to react and how to navigate has to do with the older things in the journey guide. With the availability of some of these newer characters between the era battles, right? We've got the era battles with the reduced price from marquee units. I think a lot more players are going to have to find their way of how to navigate the older things in the journey guide, because you're going to feel that pull to be able to farm the new stuff. You're going to feel the pull to be able to farm Mace Windu because there's a lot more progress that's been made on that unit. And especially with the Lightspeed bundles where they've sold a lot of those older Galactic Legends where you might have them or you might already have all those units farmed. So it's just the new stuff that you need to worry about. And you're going to have to navigate that because some of these newer things, it's not just the Zetas and the Omicrons, but it's the mods. It's the, the constant nature of the Kyratex, right? Your farming is going to have to change, and you're going to have to be able to figure out how much of the new stuff you can invest in versus still building some of those older teams. Because I have 100% gone up against accounts where they might have a lot of the new things, but they're missing some of those older farms. Like I remember I would fight people who had Ahsoka, but didn't have Lord Vader or didn't have Kenobi, and you could just expose them. Because that, yes, that new thing is really good. But if someone has the counter to that and then forces, exploits a part of your roster that you don't have, it can be very detrimental. So there's a balance that you're going to have to strike between continuing to still farm those older things. You can't ignore them anymore. And I also would say that you don't want to just rely on a bundle's going to come, a bundle's going to come. Because as many of you have seen with these Lightspeed bundles, as much value as they bring to your account, the one big thing that a lot of times is exposing players is the mods, is the Zetas, is just the overall resources that you're not getting out of there. And so you've got to find that way to still go back and farm, which kind of is the second part to this point. Many of you have forgotten how to farm. You've forgotten how to farm because you don't have to anymore, right? Because everything was gifted to you. And I'm not saying that that's again, there's never judgment on buying Lightspeed bundles, but there's a lot of players I see who have almost forgotten what it's like to have to farm. They've forgotten that you've got to plan ahead, that it takes a long time. You hear somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, it's taken forever for me to get this ship. And it's like, well, yeah, it always has. Nothing has changed about that. The only thing that's changed is your perspective on how long it takes to get something, because we're used to just being able to go in and, click the button and boom, an entire Galactic Legend basically fell into our lap. So I do think you're going to have to find that balance. You're going to have to find that way that you still can continue that farming, because you don't want to get caught out, right? It's tough, but I'm telling you, you don't want to get caught out, and it'll make your account better. It really will, because when you farm nodes, you're getting additional resources. There's other things that go along with those nodes that over the years, the reason I have so many bronzium wiring, carbonate circuit boards, all this gear down here, is because I've farmed so many nodes. I've gotten all these extra rewards from them over the years that allowed me to build those additional resources. So, just finding that balance is going to be important. Not ignoring the old things, continuing to farm the new, but also just making sure that you're still farming, right? It sounds so weird, but I truthfully believe there's a lot of players who almost aren't really farming anymore because their list of, their to-do list is so long from all the bundles that they're falling behind in current content. And that's a problem. Not just current content on Jedi Master Mace. There's still a lot of players who don't yet have a Leviathan, don't yet have Profundity, and those are two massively important ships. If I was a free to play who'd built Leviathan, who'd built Profundity, and I'm going up against some account that's got Ahsoka or whatever, I'm setting all my ships on defense and you go have fun with them. I'm just going to exploit the fact that you probably don't have those ships, right? So make sure you're going back and finishing those older things, even if it means not getting to the brand newest stuff right away, which there's a balance because you need the new things for the raid, but you also can't ignore the old or else your account is going to suffer. Finally, guys, I think the last big change that we really need to address, the last thing that I feel is beginning to really show itself as a reality, is the cost of events. You think the era battle for Nightfall, right? You weren't able to do the ladder tiers without at least a CX2, if not more. This era battle with, the Jedi, it requires Mace Windu in the ladder tiers. The pirates coming into the raid where the raid's going to be released and pirates aren't even going to be in the game yet, or all of them. I think we're going to see more of this. I think we're going to see more stuff where the gate now is no longer just do you have the relics, that even the whales of the whales aren't going to be able to do those things because certain stuff isn't there. That I think the model for monetization in this game is shifting. It's shifting away from the, I'd say what used to be those gate checks. Like if you've ever played, the Afra event, or you ever played like the Grand Inquisitor event, or, Bo-Katan, where it's like, it's just a gate check. Like, did you do the thing you need to do? I guess those are maybe a little bit harder. Like the Balin event would be a good one, or like the Ahsoka Galactic Legend event, where it's literally just, do you have the character? Right? Like they moved it to this, if you have the relics, we're going to give it to you. And I think now they're kind of shifting to, you've got to have more. You've got to have more. You can't just dip your feet anymore. You've got to dump it, jump in head first and, start swimming with the sharks. And that's something you're going to have to align yourself with. Where are you comfortable playing the game at? Are you comfortable whaling on every single new character in order to complete these era battles? Are you not willing to do that? Are you a player that is going to, try to take advantage of every single era battle every single time? What degrees are you going to go to? How much are you going to invest in the characters that are coming in? With that monetization shifting, I feel, where it's not so much a relic check. It's, hey, it's not just, do you have a Relic 9 Clone Trooper? It's, do you have multiple of them? Are they well modded? Like, do you have Master Mace Windu to be able to do this? That's a big shift. And I think you are going to really need to look at yourself in the mirror and ask that question of, is this worth it? Because even like thinking about Jedi Temple Guard, was it, is it worth it for some of you to wail on that character if you're not going to be able to get him to relics right away? That's another point. Like, do you have a team for him? Do you have the Jedi Vanguard built that a character like him makes sense? These dark side clone troopers. Do you have the clones to make it work? Do you have Lord Vader, or do you have Tarkin at a point where they're going to be able to make a difference? Right? So there's a lot of that stuff where it's these entry gates to the new content is no longer just, do you have the thing? But do you have the mods? Are they good? And it's going to be moving to, you've got to have extras, right? So, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm rambling, but at the same time, I have this point I'm trying to make. And I think that to maybe like drive it home here, you need to ask yourself the very honest question of how much can you keep up with the game and how much of it do you just need to back off a little bit? Like, as someone who was, I felt I was always kind of a little bit behind those guys who were spending money. I can tell you with this new marquee system, with this new era battle system, that I am much further behind than I was before. Right? Like, I can tell you that I'm so much further behind than those players. And I'm going to end it on a great example here, and we're going to go to everybody's least favorite content creator, Egnarts, who's obviously terrible and never really does anything good for this game. No, I love Egg. You guys know that. We love Egnarts on this channel. But he was fortunate enough to be able to whale on every single clone trooper. right? He was fortunate enough to be able to whale on every single clone trooper. Now, some of that was like people, he had a SWGOH daddy who sent him stuff. He got some stuff. Like, it wasn't like he spent money on every single one of these, but he did, spend some to get there. But like, you think about how much further ahead he is than me because of those units. Like that, like he is so much farther ahead than where I am because of that, right? Think of the era battle rewards he's gotten. Think about the datacron that he's had access to, which I don't even think he had. He didn't even get the Apocron in time. I think he got it after the event. But he's so much further ahead. But even still, when you look at his account, and this is where he didn't even whale that crazy on Jedi Temple Guard because he said he wasn't willing to do it again. So I really found this interesting, and I wanted to end it here because I think this is a great example where he was like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep up with this. I'll do the dark side clones. I'm not doing it for the Vanguards. And I felt like this was a really good example of someone who kind of got a taste of, whaling and didn't have the stomach for it. And fair play to him. I mean, he's done more than I ever have in regards to, spending characters like that. But some people are going to be in a similar position and be like brave enough like him to make that choice that, yeah, you know what? I really don't need to keep doing this. It's not worth the money that I'm spending. For some people it is, but I hope some of you don't feel trapped that you can't do this. Like he right here is making that conscious decision. He's in a place where he could get Mace Windu day one if he kept going, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. So I wanted to share this because I thought it was a really good example. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Like, do you see those changes? Have you noticed that? I'd love to hear from you. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.